Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This morning, I saw my neighbor talking to her cat. Now, it was obvious she thought her cat understood her. I came into the house and told my dog, and we laughed a lot. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, Patriots, we better do it while we can. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you as we start this week, January 25th, a Monday. And I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and service. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Shelley Holy, and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you much, and right now I appreciate the call and the Pledge of Allegiance. That's the way to start things off this morning, and right now we're going to go to the weather. Thank you very much. And the weather brought to everybody by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Hello, Roger and the crew over there on the Burley-Paul Highway with all the best of tools and equipment for you to finish any kind of a project that you've got going. You better believe it. If you're not sure what you need, please give them a call. 678-3122. K&R Rental. Really good folks. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Clouds sticking around for the week and maybe some snow showers. Here's what's your weather forecast. Mostly cloudy skies for today, expecting a high of 34. A slight breeze out of the east-northeast at about 8 miles an hour. Tonight's clouds going to stick around with a low of 21. Pretty much the same for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 34. By Tuesday night, partly cloudy skies. We do have a slight breeze picking up out of the south, and we are expecting a low of 29 by Wednesday. 50% chance of snow showers by the afternoon with a high of 43. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Wow.
Okay. Thank you, Gina. Good to have you back. And Scotty did a great job on the weather last week. We appreciate that. Weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Really good people. They get there early in the morning to start serving you with the best tools and equipment for both long and short-term rental. K&R Rental. Number to call, 678-3122. Want to also take just a moment and give a great big shout out and thank you to our friends Kevin and Cindy and the staff over at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You know, it goes without saying that clothes are really expensive and you want them to have the long life. Well, dry cleaning prolongs the life of the garment, and they do the best job of anybody anywhere. Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Daryl's Cleaners. Want to also give a shout out this morning to some folks that they've been riding the horse with me for a long time on this program, and that's our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Literally, and this is the truth, all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and they've been serving you for 7 decades. Holy moly, and they've got the greatest of people, too. I want you to stop in, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, or if you can't, 678-0459, the number to call. They're open 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, and it's not bragging. Everything you need, heating, cooling, and electrical needs right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Right on cue. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. The menu at the Burley Senior Center today is chicken Malibu, mashed taters, and all the trimmings for a delicious luncheon.
Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is chicken Malibu?
Oh, it's a patty of chicken and pineapple and all kinds of goodies.
Well, they're going to start calling you Chef Boyard Joe. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much. The Senior Center on Overland in Burley. Stop in, support the seniors. Thank you, Joe Taylor. Great guy. All right, second caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning, Deb.
Good morning, my friend.
I'll take second place to Joe Taylor any day.
That a boy.
Great man.
That a boy.
You know, the first thing that Sleepy Joe signed in an executive order was the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's in his craw, and he didn't want to get it out. But he never conferred with anybody or anything. And now there is the Premier of Canada, Trudeau, who's not very happy because he depended on that pipeline being done.
Yeah.
What is that going to do to our poor local dairymen?
Well, it's not only that. It's going to affect every single person in the United States. 830,000 barrels a day were coming in here in the form of crude, and it's destroyed thousands upon thousands of jobs. It will destroy local economies and local communities. It will create much higher prices at the pump, and that's exactly what the left wants. And as far as you saying that Biden didn't confer with anybody, that's not true. The greenies on the left and all these kooks and far-out minds have said that they demand that we get away from fossil fuels and we just literally cripple our society and our economy. I am livid over this president. On all of his executive orders, I'm ready to start a impeachment of Biden right now.
I would like to do that. But when I say he didn't confer with anybody, he didn't. He conferred with those cronies that he has who have already made up their mind. They don't want to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
They want what they want, and they're going to fight. They're going to do whatever they can to get what they want.
Keith, go to the Constitution, and if you have one at home, and take those first 3 words, we the people. Look at them, study them, and love them, because they're about ready to be taken away.
I'll tell you what, you're not supposed to hate people, and I don't. But if there's anybody that needs to be hated, it would be Joe Biden.
Well, I have a
two-faced, rotten, low-down son of a gun.
And coming from you, that's pretty strong words. Listen, my dear friend, I always appreciate your call. Don't you dare stop. I appreciate the way you set the tone for the morning, and you're 100% right. The executive order with the dictates of stopping and curtailing the Keystone Pipeline after all that money, all that time, all that labor, everything is absolutely insane, just like Joe Biden. Insane. Thank you very much.
I'm just like you. Why don't I tell it how it is?
There you go, buddy. Appreciate you. Thanks, Keith.
You bet.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Keith is right, and there is more that he has done. He's allowed China to have access to our power grid.
Yep.
He stopped the border wall, but we're still on the hook to pay the contractors.
Yep.
Same thing on the Keystone Pipeline. We're still on the hook to pay them.
I know it. You want to hear something else that's going to really curdle your milk this morning? And by the way, Sean, there's a little feedback here, please. I don't know if you followed this over the weekend, and compared to the Keystone and other issues, it's not as big financially, but it just rubs me the wrong way. Biden is going to go ahead, and he is going to make us, you, Dougie, and me, Zebby, and everybody else, pay for the homeless in San Francisco to live in hotels, and they cannot be evicted. It's going to cost us, the taxpayers, in just San Francisco, up to $18 million a month.
Well, why don't they go to Pelosi's and Kamala Harris' house? Kamala's not going to be living there for a while, so let her rent the rooms out there. You know, everybody's welcome. If walls don't work, then why they got walls around their house? Why do they lock their doors at night if they don't believe in walls?
Amen. And have hired security guards with real live bang-bang guns.
Yes, and all these people that think Biden's going to take us to the promised land where everybody sits around and sings Kumbaya, you're going to be singing something different when you're everybody's in the poor camp and we're all in gulags getting reprogrammed.
I'll tell you what, one of the issues, and caller number 2, don't go away, I'll be right there. One of the issues that just honestly, Doug, I took off one of my boots and gave it a hurl, is the fact that he is going to allow abortions. He signed this too. Abortions up to the day of birth. I am so sick of this, and I am so mad at this administration, if you want to call it that. I can't even imagine 4 years with this stumble-bum dementia man that absolutely is going against the people in our Constitution.
Yes. And you remember when President Trump come in, I don't think he signed 2 or 3 executive orders in the first week. And here this man has come in and done 27, and nobody's said a word. Mainstream media is yes, yes, yes. This is the way it needs to be. Now, that's a dictator right there.
You've got it.
He just does not go what the American people want, does not go to Congress and the Senate to get things done. He just does them on his own.
Remember the term free speech from our beloved Constitution and the First Amendment. Well, I'm going to say this, folks. You'd better use it now. It's almost going to be taken away.
Exactly. I mean, and I've had a few discussions with some liberals over the weekend, and they think I'm a homophobic every ist that they can think of. And I says, really? And one of them was family, and I says, so you think I need to be sent to a re-education camp? You think I need to go somewhere where I am reprogrammed?
What was
silence?
What was their response? Surely these mouths of intelligence must have had something else bright to say.
Nope, just silence.
That's what I figured. You know, I've talked to, again, I apologize to the caller waiting, but I've talked to a lot of people over the last couple of days, and the people I've talked to are absolutely livid. They want to see right now impeachment proceedings against Biden just for the simple nature that he's distorting, twisting, and killing off the American ideal.
Well, he's killed over 70 to 80,000 jobs in 2 days in office.
Yes.
Imagine what he can do in 100 days.
Oh, yeah. Give this guy a little time, and look out. Here we go. Complete socialist takeover of this country.
Yes. I mean, I'm just livid. And there's a gal in Congress that did file a deal to impeach Biden.
Yes.
And I hope it goes, because when you give a foreign country access to your power grid, You are not upholding the Constitution. You are not doing what's right by the American people.
You know, I just wish that more people... I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I think you'll agree with me. America has to stand up. America has to fight back. We have to say, wait a minute, we the people are not being listened to, and you, a handful of thugs and marauders, are taking over this country and destroying it.
Yep, it's time everybody get a hold of your representatives. You can Google their name and their phone number, and it'll come right to you. Or use DuckDuckGo like I use so Google doesn't track me. And we also need to be voting with our pocketbooks. These companies like Marriott and that are shunning Republicans, every conservative out there, if you travel, do not stay at a Marriott.
I'll tell you what.
Tell them that you're not staying there because of what they're doing.
When I heard that Senator Josh Hawley had a great big doings canceled because he's a Republican and a conservative, I'm with you. I am going to really watch where I spend my money, and I'm going to be real picky about telling people what I think of them.
Yes, and right now we're canceling Amazon Prime.
Attaboy.
I talked to Crystal, and she agrees, and she's made a list. And when she goes through a grocery store, she looks, and if it comes from China, she puts it back on.
Bingo. Deanne's the same way. We do not buy anything foreign. If it's not made in the USA, shelve it. And I had to really articulate. Remember, shelve it.
Exactly.
Hey, give us a quick spiel about the senior centers, because I've got calls waiting. Thank you.
You bet. Everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. I mean, they built this country, and now it's time for us to stand up and fight for it and take care of them.
Absolutely.
So go eat there and leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
Thank you, Doug. Always appreciate your call. Caller number 2, I've got some bills to pay, and I'll be right there. You're next. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Yep, they are America's Diner. Oh, breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time, all the desserts. I mean, I'm a breakfast person, as you know. They've got breakfast skillets, and they got the strawberry crepes, and all the sandwiches. You're going to love it. Absolutely. Delicious food served by very nice people. At Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, it is so true. America's Diner. Really good people. Want to also give a great big shout out to somebody else that I've got a lot of respect for, and that's Dino Septic Service. Man, when you call them, I mean, it is like Johnny on the spot. They really are there to serve you. Dino Septic Service, the best in septic tank pumping, backhoe services, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, liquid waste removal. Oh my, they do the job you and I don't want to do, and they cover all of southern Idaho. They're good, and they got the latest of equipment too. Call them 436-6526 or 678-1638 and 735-8281. Good people. Dino Septic Service, serving you. Caller, you have been so patient. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Well, move over Venezuela because we're coming your way. I mean, that's exactly where we're headed. You know, I've studied history. It's been my passion all my life. And we are headed down the road to a third world status, and that's exactly where they want us. They've been trying to do this for decades, and even back in the 50s, Norman Dodds, he was a special investigator for the Reese Committee of U.S. Congress, and he went to H. Roland Gaither, who was the president of the Ford Foundation, and off the record, Gaither said to Norman Dodds that they were under directives to so alter their life in the U.S. that we could basically merge with the Soviet Union, which was a third world country at the time. And so that's where we're headed, Zeb.
Okay.
And everything that Biden has been doing is to destroy our culture, destroy our economy, and destroy our Constitution.
I agree. Now, let me jump in here. Whoa, wait a minute. Adrian, let me jump in. We got to have a little two-way conversation. Number one, I don't really want to talk about what happened in the past. I know it was devastating, and I know it affects today. But no, wait a minute. Please, you've got to hear me out.
We don't know what happened.
Wait a minute.
We have to realize what their plans are.
I know that, Adrian. Don't interrupt me when I've got the floor. I won't interrupt you, but I've got to jump in. I got to say this to you. I realize we need to know what happened in the past so it's somewhat prevented in the future. But right now, we've got to concentrate on what we, the people, can do to stop this absolute massive attack on our freedom. I know looking into the past, say so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. That's fine. But right now, we've got to concern ourselves how to stop it.
Well, and we can't do that unless more people get involved. You know, I send out emails to a lot of people. I just had one last night. Please take me off your email list. You know, because they don't want to get involved. Most people want to let a few of us do it all, and that's the real problem.
That's
we
right.
Don't have enough numbers.
That's right.
You know, 75 million, probably close to 80 million Trump supporters, you know, voted for him. And despite all of that, we have this socialist as president. But we now have to really activate ourselves and demand that our elected officials, as Doug just said,
I agree.
got to stand up and support the Constitution. I do want to give some credence that, you know, I'm from Wyoming, and I talked to some people recently, and I guarantee you, Liz Cheney's got opposition, and people over there are so mad at her, it's unbelievable. She probably is going to be primaried out next spring. But anyway, at least we hope that she is. But that's the good news. So we need more people that'll stand up against these tyrants.
I agree.
I'm real pleased with our two senators and Simpson. They've been just sweeping things under the rug. We have no election integrity, and we need to demand that the next election in 2 years they'll cheat on that one too.
Yeah.
If we don't demand that they change it.
I appreciate your thoughts, and believe me, I feel your pain, and I share exactly the same feelings that you do, Adrian. But right now, I'm trying to get people to stand up and use their voices in this so-called freedom of speech atmosphere that we have with the First Amendment, because soon it's going to be gone. I've got to run. I've got sponsors I got to take care of, but you are always appreciated on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, get hold of those. And our governor's still acting like a dictator, too. 208-334-2100.
Gotcha.
The governor's office.
All right, Adrian.
Never heard from him. I've contacted him close to 20 times. Never heard a word back, even though I've asked him for it.
All right.
He's got to go. Anyway, we got to keep on him, too, because they're locking us down at the state level as well as the federal.
Appreciate it, Adrian. Thank you so much for your call, as always. Thank you very much. I want to remind you, I tell you what, when it comes to the beautification of your home, you know, whether it's with luxury vinyl plank, carpeting, tile, hardwood, mosaics, countertops, home decor, and designing a new look for your home on the inside, they do a wonderful job at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. They're located with the Big Blue Store at 1300 Overland Avenue in Burley. Unbeatable prices and designs. Whitney will really sit down and help you design your space. Don't forget, they are the best at what they do, and they always say unbeatable prices and designs at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. They are good. Right now, we're going to give away some cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. What a bakery. What a restaurant. I know a lot of folks that go in there, and they never leave hungry, I'll tell you that. And we're going to give away a dozen cookies. If you're the winner, call them and let them know when you'll be in for your cookies. And right now, I'm going to give you an easy one today. This is kind of a slam dunk. I know you're going to get this right away. What professional Major League Baseball team did cowboy actor Gene Autry own at one time? What baseball team did cowboy actor Gene Autry own? Give me a call at 436-2244 or 1-866-927-4587. Once again, what Major League Baseball team did cowboy actor Gene Autry own? Give me a call quickly and win the cookies at 436-2244. Come on, give me a call. And I think that should be really easy. I'm surprised the phone hasn't lit up yet. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's the answer?
Good morning.
Turn your radio off.
I just did.
Okay, thank you. You're blowing my headset out.
But I do remember Gene Autry because he was my favorite. But it was the Los Angeles Angels.
Well, you know, they could go by any kind of a name. Anaheim Angels, the California Angels, Los Angeles Angels, and you're right. And you are the winner of the cookies, Keith. Congratulations.
I want my cookies to go to the staff at K-Bar. They work so hard to make your station sound good.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I'll tell you what, I said Sean's listening right now, and if you will call over to Sophie's and tell them that you're the winner, but you want the cookies to go to the staff, they'll make arrangements, and Gina or Sean or someone can stop in and pick them up. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yep, it was the Anaheim or California or Los Angeles Angels. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. And they've got 3 locations at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location for the best of all their inventory of Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes, trenchers, scissor lifts, all the Doosan heavy equipment for the lifting, digging, pushing, and carrying. And they've got rental rates that are absolutely low. You check it out. They've got great people working there at all 3 locations to help you with the rental of equipment at Berry Equipment and Rental in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. I am not saying this next statement to be theatrical or to stir you up, but it's the truth. I think every day that goes by, we are going to be seeing more and more of our freedoms taken away. And the thing that I'm really concerned about, and over the last 4 days have talked to many, many people in this industry, being media industry, whether it's radio, whether it's television, or whether it's the newspaper. And we are going to be seeing much more of a blanketing effect of covering us up. In other words, I know that there are people out there that want to shut me up. I know there are people out there that want to see my program gone. I know the same is true for Hannity or Carlson or anybody else, Laura Ingraham. They want them shut up and off the air. They want a complete confederation of thought their way. I don't know what we're going to do to fight this. I really don't. I see the left as taking over through this Biden administration and stifling and curtailing our amendments, starting with, of course, the First Amendment of free speech. How long we can continue, I don't know. Am I going to fight? You better believe it. I am not going to go along with these people. I don't want to unify with these people. Some people will take offense to that. I don't want, nor will I, unify with people that for the last 5 years have condemned me, damned me, mocked me, belittled me, and threatened me. I'm not going to do it. No way. I am never going to capitulate with the left's filth and incompetency and go along just to get along. Now, if you want to join the list of sheep that may follow the left into hell, you go ahead, not me. If they want to get the plug pulled on this program, I'm telling you one thing, I'm not going to go quietly. I'm going to fight until the last minute or the last sponsor. But I'm not going to give in to these people that are absolutely turning our country upside down, tearing it apart, and trying to throw it in the trash. Damn them. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Caller, I am talking to you. Go ahead, please.
Yes. You know, about this minimum wage of $15 an hour, let me tell you how I really feel about it. It's going to come out of my pocket, and it's going to come out of your pocket, because $15 an hour is not going to get us any bigger check, is it?
Keith, the forced stupidity, which it is, of a $15 minimum wage is going to cause, and nobody's going to tell me I'm wrong because I'm not, it's going to cut back on jobs. We're going to see much, much higher prices on different commodity items, clothing, food, etc. And many businesses are going to be gone, not only because of the minimum wage, but because of the affiliation of imposing the minimum wage with the COVID problems. This is so stupid, and we have stupid people, and they are, like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that have never owned a business, never had to make payroll, and they're telling us how to run businesses. That is absolutely the biggest joke I've ever heard.
But just think, we're going to be paying another $1 a gallon for gas. It's evident. And things like this, but our Social Security check will not change.
Wait a minute. I want to correct you on something you just said. You said we're going to be paying another $1 for gas. Listen, I'll tell you this, my dear friend. Oh, it's going to be a lot more than that. And because of the idiocy and the incompetency and the very sinister being of what this I almost said Obama, but it's basically a follow-up to Obama, what this Biden administration is trying to do. I'm telling you what, we better look to the east and the west and the north and the south and thank the good Lord above that we're seeing the prices right now, possibly for the very last time in our life, at between $2.65 and $3 a gallon, because it's going to go up.
Well, I'm trying to go into it easily by saying $1 a gallon. You know, so people don't get real mad. Just kind of get...
No, I want people to get real mad. You want people to get real mad, Keith. We got to get mad. We've got to tell this government, hey, wait a minute. Biden and Harris and all these loopy-doopy senators and congressmen, they need to hear from us.
Well, when you come right down to it, though, when you are in anger and you're trying to confront somebody, you're not going to be well heard or listened to.
Well, have they listened to you when you tried to be nice?
Thought before you said it.
Wait a minute. Have they listened to you by trying to be with your hat in your hands, standing there looking at them? Have they done anything to really help you being nice?
I would have to agree with you on that, because I would not be nice.
I'm not going to be.
I'd have it planned out how I was going to do it. You know, just to scream in somebody's face. And that's what we're doing right now with these riots and everything else. They're just sticking their face out at you and say, I dare you to hit me. That's what they're doing.
Well, the riots and what we the people are trying to do and what we the people are trying to protect are two different things. You're talking about Antifa, a absolutely lawless sector of our society that wants to burn, loot, and destroy. So it's two different things. I'm not calling for anybody to burn, loot, and destroy or cause harm to any human being. I'm saying that we need to get our voices up aloud in one voice and demand to these people that we hired through the voting system of America, hey, remember what you're doing, because you're not going to be in office much longer.
I don't know what we can really do except at the polls.
That's what I said.
We're going to have to get quality people to run. And where are they?
Boy, there's the great big $64,000 question I don't know. Keith, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
They would be worthy of it, already have a good job, and they don't want to get themselves in poverty by helping us out.
Well, the $15 minimum wage is just absolutely farcical. I've got to run. I got another call waiting, Keith. I appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
It's me again, Margaret.
Yes.
That $15 an hour, okay, think about it. Seattle, Washington tried that. And what happened to their restaurants?
What restaurants?
Yeah. I mean, they had to cut back on employees. And then you're going to go $15 an hour, and then you're going to open up the border and let anybody come into this country, uneducated or unvetted. And what are they going to do?
That's right.
You're going to pay them $15 an hour when they don't have the knowledge to even perform, menial job?
Well, wait a minute, though, Doug. We're missing something as employers and as business owners. You're missing another point, and it needs to be brought out right here. Let's say that you've got, a couple of high school kids and a college dropout. And all of a sudden, you're going to give them $15 an hour to work in your business. That may sound good. But, Doug, what are you going to do when the other employees that have been loyal to you for 2 or 3 years come to you and say, wait a minute, they're making almost as much or more than I am, and I need a raise. And what you're doing is having a snowball effect that's going to cripple these businesses.
Exactly. The government has shut a lot of these businesses down for the last 9-10 months. And now they're going to tell them they got to pay their people $15 an hour when they're just barely hanging on by their fingernails?
Yeah.
I mean, these people that are doing this have no flippin' idea how to run a business.
Well, look who's promoting it. Look who's promoting it. The likes of wild-haired Bernie Sanders. The guy has never done anything but preach socialism all of his life. And then you've got a 30-something bartender that has the IQ of an empty bottle that absolutely is advocating it again with Bernie. I mean, these people don't know what it's like to run a business. They don't know what it's like to run the risk. They don't know what it's like to try to meet payroll. And they're telling us?
Exactly. Bernie Sanders, look up his history. He was in a kind of a commune where everybody worked together and shared everything, and he got kicked out because he was too lazy. He did not produce.
I mean, if you want to make somebody mad today, a business owner, and all of my people that are advertising on this program, my heart goes out to them. But you can't just all of a sudden tell somebody that has a low entry job position, they have no idea of what's come here from Sikkim, and you're going to give them $120 a day based on an 8-hour shift, and you've got all your other employees that are going to say, wait a minute, you got little Ralphie here that you hired for $15 an hour. What about increasing my wages? And like I said, you've got such an inflationary problem, it's probably going to cause you to close the doors.
Exactly. Like, we'll take my business, for instance. Not everybody knows how to do this stuff. And it takes time to train them, to teach them, so I don't have to be standing over top of them and double-check everything they do. When I double-check everything they do, it cuts down on my production.
Absolutely.
And if I was to give them $15 an hour, then that means my prices would have to raise to my customers.
When you start giving...
If I do that, then these people that are bringing in all these China parts, then they can, they would be undercutting me.
Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing in just a week, is a mess that's been heaped upon us. I feel like the American public is being treated like they're a garbage dump, and the government keeps putting more garbage and filth on top of us.
Yeah, and it's less than a week, Zeb. They've had 2.5 working days.
That's right.
2.5 days, they have created this, and they're screaming for unity.
Yeah.
And they're still wanting to impeach a president that is not president. I mean, these people do not want unity. They want us to surrender.
How would you feel, and I had this email come in, I'm not going to mention names or anything, but I had an email come in last Friday morning, and it said, oh, come on, Zeb, what's the matter with you? I'm paraphrasing. You don't want to unify. Well, that's not being an American. We should all pull together. Wait a minute. Where was this pulling together 4.5 to 5 years ago? Where was all this sense of unity 4.5 to 5 years ago? Now I'm supposed to join a slovenly, lazy bunch of people that don't know come here from Sikkim, and I'm supposed to join and put their uniform on? I don't think so.
No. You can tell a lot by people more by their actions than their words. And their actions have shown me the last 4 or 5 years that they do not want unity. They want us to give in.
They want conformity. They want conformity, not unity.
Yeah. And they're not going to get conformity.
Not from me.
If our founding fathers done that when they first got this nation, we'd be under English rule.
Yeah. George's descendants. I got to run. I got to get a weather in, buddy. All right, thank you. Hey, I want to remind you the weather this hour is brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison. No, there's an H. There's Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, absolutely providing expert diagnostic testing for your hearing health. Please get a hold of them today. The number 312-0957. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room. You call them today for an appointment for your hearing health. 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Clouds sticking around for the week and maybe some snow showers. Here's what's your weather forecast. Mostly cloudy skies for today, expecting a high of 34. A slight breeze out of the east-northeast at about 8 miles an hour. Tonight's clouds going to stick around with a low of 21. Pretty much the same for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 34. By Tuesday night, partly cloudy skies. We do have a slight breeze picking up out of the south, and we are expecting a low of 29 by Wednesday. 50% chance of snow showers by the afternoon with a high of 43. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, the best practices and technology for your hearing health. Please, I urge you, they help me, they can help you. Call for an appointment at 312-0957. The other night, we were over at Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon. Hold on, caller. And we walked in, sat down at 18 East Main Street in Declo, and there were a lot of friends of ours. The Rod Kendall family was there, the Bott family was there, and we ordered our food, and then I'm going to tell you something, folks. It was heaven on earth. I ordered the prime rib, and I can be at times a big eater, and boy, they almost whooped me. It was really, really phenomenal and big. We did not go out of there hungry, and oh my goodness, we topped it off. I know you're saying, Zeb, I topped it off with a delicious piece of cheesecake. Oh, you got to stop in at Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon, 18 East Main Street in Declo. Open Wednesday through Saturday from 4 to closing. Woo, it is good. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. What's still going on in the streets is going to get worse and worse. We are going to have hit-and-run guerrilla warfare, and I think this bunch that's Antifa and the rest of them would be running around with AK-47s, and our police are really going to take a lot of punishment over this.
Yeah. I agree with you, and believe me, my heart goes out and my thoughts go out to all the people involved in police work, our firemen, our first responders. They're in a very dangerous, precarious situation right now. I totally agree with you. And these crazies with Antifa, like what they're doing up in Tacoma, Washington, with riots and burning and standing outside of a jail saying, "Free them all! Free them all!" Well, my saying would be, lock them all up. Lock them all up. It's complete nonsense from a completely crazy, sleazy group of human beings.
Well, if this happened in the Soviet Union, these people would have been physically crushed.
Should have been.
I believe that's the only way you're going to put a stop to it here.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Police being hurt. It's time to put the hurt on these rioters physically.
Yeah. You know, it's to the point where it's like little children. How long are you going to go before they get a spanking for what they're doing wrong? And yes, all you Dr. Spockish types, I said a spanking.
It's funded by maybe the Soviet Union, China, George Soros, or something that's keeping these people motivated and being supported.
Yeah, well, the more that we fall apart, the more it helps them, and that's why there is the support to come in here, infiltrate our country, infiltrate our ways and means, and turn us into a completely tumultuous society. I agree.
So law enforcement has got to, I don't know who they're going to have to get permission to crush these people. And I really mean crush them, because if you don't, things are going to start hitting our neighborhoods and everything else when they find out they can get away with it.
Absolutely. Tony, I wish you and Mary the best, and I always do appreciate your calls. God bless you, my dear friend. Take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've got to get something in here on a personal nature. Over the last couple of days, a man that I had met and a man that I had literally sat down next to, hold on, caller, sat down next to when I was 11 years old. And that was Hammerin' Hank Aaron. I was blessed when I was a young man. My grandfather made arrangements for me to be the kind of the official bat boy for a game when the Milwaukee Braves were in Milwaukee before they moved to Atlanta. And I had a chance to sit in the dugout, and I have a signed baseball of all the Braves of that great time: Andy Pafko, Eddie Matthews, Del Crandall, and Hank Aaron, and others. And he was a very, very nice man. Well, Hammerin' Hank Aaron passed away this last couple of days. And regardless of what people and sports writers say, I will always believe that Hank Aaron is the home run king instead of the juiced up Barry Bonds. Rest in peace to a great baseball player, Hank Aaron. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. No matter the cost, we build the wall, we build the pipeline, and we protect our cities. Ignore the rest that they're telling us, Zeb.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, there seems to be a concentrated effort, Earl, for us not to do what you just mentioned, and the idiocy that's coming out of the Biden camp with the open borders and the abortion and the edicts to cut off our energy. I'm telling you, Earl, there's trouble in River City, and it's not because the trombone player's sick.
The strength of this nation is in its people, and it's not those sitting at home or in a basement.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And I'm still scratching my head how a guy like Biden, that absolutely does not have the mental capacity or the physical wherewithal to be the president of the United States. You can see that they have to lead him around almost to get him to the podium, etc. How he could stay in the basement and win the presidency. A lot of question marks, a lot of unbelieving on my part.
Yeah, Biden's just a puppet.
Well, somebody better cut the strings. This is insane what's happening. Earl, the man up on the mountain, take care of yourself, old buddy. Appreciate it. I got to run and do some commercials and then go to the news. Thank you so much. All right, God bless you. I want to remind everybody about our major sponsor, and that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, boy. All the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for all vehicles. I mean, that's the truth. And along with that, the best in brake service. They really have highly trained brake technicians, along with front-end alignment, shocks and struts. Boy, front-end alignments are really important. All those chuck holes and everything else on the highway, please make sure that it's okay. And don't forget the best in batteries. Stop in and see the best. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, along with Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, and, of course, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. Nobody better. The best. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Next hour, we're really going to get into this mess, this turmoil, this and I'm going to call it like I see it, cesspool that Biden is putting us in. Rick Manning is going to be on the air with us, and then at 9:30, Frosty Woldridge has got a brand spanking new book that's really going to knock your socks off. We're going to be talking about that at 9:30. 10:06 this morning, one of my favorite contributors from back in Florida, Dan Perkins, will be on the air, so don't miss all that. Right now, we're going to send it over to Sean. He's going to take us up to news. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Welcome back. Hour number 2 on a Monday, January 25th. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and, of course, always the best in service. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, this good word for our friends at Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Easy to get on the route service. Once a week come by, they will pick up your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. You can wave goodbye to your problem. Absolutely. Call them. Western Waste Services at 734-6969. And it is so true. They are always at your disposal. Want to remind you, too, about our dear friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I'm going to be over there this afternoon. They're going to be working on my old knee and hip again, and they do a wonderful job at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists there, they know what they're doing. They know all the exercises, and they've got the availability of the hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in this area. Please, if you're aching and paining, don't suffer. Give them a call, make an appointment, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, absolutely the best. Real quick word, too, for our dear friends, Joel Heward and his family and staff over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Don't forget, they're going to have a real special day on February 9th, Tuesday, February 9th. They're going to be providing a lot of the statistic forms, veteran forms, information on traditional services right there in their parking lot from 4 until it's done. They're going to have food, they're going to have snacks, they're going to have all the information you need for you and your family. Please stop by Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I will say this up front. I hope he can cool me down a little bit, because I am hot. After just a week of this Biden administration, I'm personally ready to see if somehow I can instigate impeachment against Biden instead of what they're trying to do to President Trump. Good morning, my dear friend Richard Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government.
Hey, Jack, how are you doing, man? We got a weird situation, don't we, Zeb? We are looking at 5 days, and they say unity, 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 and but what they actually do is be a supplicant, kneel to us, and it's gonna be an interesting an extra whatever. Let's see, 207 more weeks.
You know, I'm kind of sorry you said it that way, because now I'm really starting to sweat. In very serious tones, I have never in my life, and I'm an old man, been more worried about this country, more worried about my grandchildren, more worried about what's happening to our freedoms and our Constitution. In just a matter of a week's time, we're seeing people suffering because of energy rollbacks and cutbacks on the Keystone Pipeline. The absolute absolutely heinous act that he signed about letting abortions go until the day of birth. I mean, we're seeing so many of these things happening that's going to be the destruction of America.
Yeah, that's true, and it's why we fought to make certain that the elections were valid, and it's why the other side fought so hard to make certain that that case never got heard, because here's what's different, and this is I just need to say this up front. What's different here is in the past. Even under Obama, there was a nod to the need to be consensus builders at some level. There was a sense that because the House and Senate Democrats were not all far left, that they had to build consensus in their own party around certain things, and it stopped some of the radicalism that they were tending towards. In this administration, there's no break. And by break, I mean B-R-A-K-E break. It is and there's no sense that the people who they have to bring America together. In fact, what they believe is that they need to re-educate the rest of America who didn't vote for them. And and they're using the January 6th as the excuse to try to pass things like domestic terrorism legislation that is not aimed at Antifa. It's not aimed at the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not aimed at the Islamists in Minneapolis. It's not aimed at any of those types. It's aimed at you and me. And, it's how Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders supporter Tulsi Gabbard, interprets it. And she's very clear. She says, and she doesn't agree with it. She's opposing it. But but it's very clear that the people they want to target are, if you're a white male and if you're a veteran, if you have an American flag flying out in front of your house, you are being targeted by this because and that would be me, are essentially the core of what they need to get rid of to finish the fundamental transformation.
I said this last hour, and I stand behind this.
I apologize.
Pardon me?
I wish I could calm you down, Zeb, but I can't.
Well, Rick, I think I'm beyond calming down because I really feel this way. I don't want, nor will I, ever unify with people that for the last 5 years plus have condemned me, damned me, mocked me, belittled me, and threatened me, and then I'm supposed to capitulate and I'm supposed to join their team. That's one uniform I'm not putting on, my friend.
Well, and the interesting thing is the left in their writings, and this is where it gets interesting. It's interesting what we say. Read what they say. They say, how can we be expected to unify with people who are Nazis? Because remember, we've been demonized for 5.5, 6 years as being Nazis, as being fascists, as being little Hitlers. That's what we've been demonized as being. And so there are people in this country who actually believe that to be true. And so the left is saying, how can we can't unite with people like that? And that's their justification for coming out as Katie Couric did. Katie Couric, nice little meek Katie Couric from Today's Show, came out for re-education camps.
Yeah.
So that's how a Katie Couric comes out for re-education camps, because she's not a benign person. She's a far-left activist who worked her way into our world as a benign talk show host on Today's Show. But she's always been exactly the kind of person who thinks that people who don't agree with her need to be shipped off somewhere to get retrained, so to speak.
Yeah, Rick, right there, we've got a call waiting.
That's what we're up against.
Yeah, we've got a call waiting, but I want to ask you about this. Reprogramming or deprogrammed, etc. What are we going to be doing? Are we going to have a knock on my radio studio door and they're going to say, better get on your crutches, cowboy, because we're taking you away, and that'll be it for me? I mean, is that the kind of mental worry that we have to go through and anguish we have to go through right now, waiting for that knock on the door?
I don't know. I think that's a. I think if you live in a blue state where you have consensus from top to bottom from a law enforcement and governmental situation, you're in a much more tenuous position than you are if you live in a red state, a deep red state like Idaho, in a rural area. That's a. But yeah, I mean, it's a. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen necessarily. I do know if they define somebody as a domestic terrorist, and they say you can't, they put you on a no-fly fly list, so you can't fly anymore, and they say, and they essentially start using that to restrict your banking opportunities, so you can actually use banking systems in this country and electronic transfer monies and the like at a time when they're getting rid of hard currency. We're essentially, what we're looking at is a system that is much more like the Chinese social credit system, where by virtue, they don't have to lock you up. They can sit there and they can effectively lock you in your house, like they have for the last year with COVID as an excuse, and they can lock you in your house and separate you from the availability of your own money simply because they can separate you from it electronically. And they can make it so you can't get on a plane. They can make it so it's harder to buy a car. They can deny you credit in terms of being able to do any of that kind of stuff. So I don't anticipate that necessarily we're going to see the Chinese Mao-style long march. I do believe that they will attempt to utilize the both the social systems and the banking systems, which are all controlled by those who control the bits and bytes. They'll try to use those to enforce behaviors and deny people the ability to get things like concert tickets or do normal stuff, because that's something that they can control with a flip of the switch without having to send a single person to your door.
Wow.
It has an equal impact on enforcing you to determine whether or not you want to stand up to them or not, or you want to reform your behavior.
Wow. We have a caller with a question or a comment. Quickly, caller, you're on the air, please.
They hung up.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate it. Rick, what about the idiocy and the incompetency of this administration? How do we fight back when you have an edict, an executive order? And this one really frosted the muffins the other day when I read that in San Francisco, that the homeless are taking over hotels and motels, and they're just literally dropping in as homesteaders and taking them over. And now Biden has said he wants you and I, the taxpayers, to pay for the homeless to live in these hotels. This is insanity.
Yep. It's just one of many instances of the destruction of private property. That will be not only accepted but viewed as being moral. It is the fact is, if you like San Francisco, modern San Francisco, you're going to love America under Biden, and that is and sadly, this is something which isn't new. I mean, it's something which I was saying throughout the campaign, and it's you've got essentially a New York City, San Francisco government. And it is going to be in Chicago, combine Chicago in. And you have and that is what you're going to have. That's what they're going to try to impose. The key to this is states that don't have Democrat-dominated legislatures need to fight back by saying, not in our state. And they need to basically have a state legislature and governor and attorney general who are willing every single day to file a lawsuit against this government, against the federal government, to prevent the expansion of this kind of activity into your states. And to insulate, make them fight in the courts the 2 to 3 year battle necessary to get any of their stuff done. That's what they did to President Trump. That's what we should do to them. Mm-hmm. And what's more, our judges who claim to be for freedom principles and for constitutional government need to be unafraid to do a simple thing, and that is exactly what the Obama judges did. It is put a nationwide injunction on anything that they find to be unconstitutional. Because if it's unconstitutional in Idaho, it's also unconstitutional in Illinois. And go ahead and do that, just like they did with the travel ban that Obama also, or Biden also overturned. But it took 2 years to get the travel ban into place. That was a clearly constitutional prerogative by this president, and it was but because one judge in Hawaii declared it to be unconstitutional and said, and had the order apply nationwide. Guess what? He was one judge in Hawaii who was able to stop the administration policy for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what we have to apply. That's what we have to be willing to use. The Supreme Court has said that hasn't said it's not constitutional. It had a chance to do that. So we have to start expecting our state attorney generals, our local governments, to start taking a look at how the left fought the Trump policies and apply those same standards to the Biden policies. And then force the Biden administration to say, we're going to go ahead and do it no matter what the courts say, and allow for that constitutional crisis to occur, because ultimately that will be the one that decides whether or not this can be stopped, if the rule of law is even matters. But the courts, the justices, the dudes in the robes are going to have to actually, put some skin in the game in terms of defending constitutional freedom, as opposed to writing treatises that make no sense.
Speaking of making no sense, you have got to help me. Spread some common sense around to me this morning as to the common sense that the Democrats have not, evidently a very big bowl full of, in the possible re-impeachment of Donald Trump. Please tell me and tell them this is idiocy personified.
Well, it is. Let me just, in terms of the impeachment, first of all, Donald Trump has been impeached. The House impeached him without having even a single hearing about it. And the articles of impeachment are that he incited the events of January 6th at the Capitol. And and the problem they have is the articles of impeachment aren't borne out by any of the facts. So the FBI says, well, this thing was planned in advance. Well, if it was planned in advance, then it couldn't have been instigated by any remarks that were made on January 6th.
That's right.
Clearly, that's just true. So what the Democrats and what Chuck Schumer has already said is he doesn't really care what the articles of impeachment say. They're going to try to impeach President Trump on the totality of his speech over 5.5, 6 years, and say that the totality of his speech are what led to the Capitol invasion on January 6th. And as a result, they're going to expand that scope from the remarks of January 6th to remarks for 5.5 years and say, see, all of this is so incendiary that this was the natural consequence. And that is what they're going to do on impeachment. And the question will be, will the Republicans in the Senate stand up and say this is garbage, or will they not? And the question is, if your senators haven't said this is garbage, you need to be just all over them. And we need senators right now coming out and saying, I'm voting against impeachment. This can't be, this isn't a time for people to say, well, I'm going to weigh all the options, because it's so obviously bogus that if anybody who won't come out now and say I'm against impeachment is enabling this process, and in doing so, they are allowing for speech, for political speech, to be deemed to be illegal.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, kind of destroys the entire concept of the First Amendment. So I don't know. I mean, it seems to me there's 2 senators in Idaho who give lip service to freedom. So let's, if they have not, and I do not know, I haven't looked, but if they have not come out hard and strong against impeachment, saying they're going to vote against it, it's absurd, it's an affront to the people of Idaho. If they haven't, you guys need to ask them why. because that is a basic question.
Absolutely.
Why haven't they done so?
Absolutely.
There's no place. You can't hide right now. I mean, there's no hiding behind process, behind any of that. The other side isn't hiding behind process. And if the people who are elected from Idaho, of all places, try to hide behind process, then you just need to remember that. And just, once again, it's just, there's no place for this. And I hate to pick on your guys, but they are notoriously missing on all the fights.
Bingo.
And
Absolutely.
It's time for them to either belly up to the bar and get in the game or get out of the game entirely. But there's no room. There's no middle here. I mean, the only thing there's a saying from the South that I learned back when I lobbied the South for NRA, and that is the only thing in the middle of the road are yellow lines and dead skunks. And you know what? Can't be in the middle here, folks. And that's what you have to tell your senators.
Amen.
In the middle here.
Amen.
You have to pick a side. And if they pick the wrong side, bottom line is primary and win.
Amen.
One person to run against them, not three. One person to run against them, and bullet vote that person, and beat them. It's just the only way it can happen. There's no excuse for anybody from Idaho being anything less than solid, and I think that's so. I'm just telling you, that's the way people get with weak knees get much firmer, is when they see their own political future in jeopardy as a result of trying to stand on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
There's no sidelines here.
Absolutely. Rick, I've only got a minute and a half left, so I'm going to ask you one more thought. Keystone Pipeline. I'm livid about this stupidity, and I'm also very, very painful. I feel pain for the people that are going to be suffering without the oil and without the local economy and the money that they're going to need to survive. Your thoughts quickly.
Keystone XL pipeline cancellation is directly applied to China, so the oil goes to China. The oil will go somewhere. It'll just be piped over the west coast of Canada and to China. They've already got the routes approved, and so this is nothing more, nothing less than a give China oil to burn because we don't want to. That's what it is. It's a giveaway to China, but. There is a lawsuit related to that. I think it's a reasonable lawsuit because there was approval. People went forward with said approval. They spent money based on said approval, and now that approval is being rescinded. And I think there's a liability that the federal government has related to that, that's you and me, but it shouldn't be a monetary liability. It should be you have a contract, you have to keep your contract. And so I think the last word has not been heard in terms of whether or not the Keystone XL pipeline gets done or not.
Amen. Wow, I look forward to Mondays. I learn a lot from this man, President of Americans for Limited Government, Rick Manning. God bless you. I say that every week, and I mean it. Thanks, Rick. We'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, buddy.
All right. Take care. Thank you. He knows what's going on. Let me tell you, I'm very fortunate to have him in the stable of guests that come on this program. Rick Manning, thank you very much. Want to also give a great big shout out again to Denny's Restaurant. Oh, about this time of the morning, when you get up and have a little bowl of cereal in the morning, about 4 o'clock, I'm hungry. And right now I'm going to talk about the best of breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts, anytime, all the time at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Thomas and the staff absolutely want you to enjoy your eating experience at Denny's Restaurant. And like I said, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whether it's pancakes and eggs or breakfast skillets or strawberry crepes or burgers or whatever, it's all great at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Want to also remind you about some other good folks, and boy, do they work hard in working for you, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance over on Highway 24 going into Rupert. Absolutely the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, and like I said, they're very dedicated and responsive to your needs. And all you need to do to have them help you is call 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really good folks. Wow, this next man is working so hard all the time to let us know what's happening in the United States, what needs to happen in the United States, and what isn't being done in the United States. And I'm talking about my dear buddy back in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge, that's got a brand new book coming out. Frosty, good morning to you. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb, and thank you very much. Yes, as a matter of fact, just last week, Sandy and I went down to Denver on 58th Street, and I think you know where that is, north of the city on I-25.
Yes.
And of course, it's got 8 lanes, well, actually 10 lanes altogether, because it's got a HOA lane in the middle, and it is bumper-to-bumper traffic 6 days a week, especially Monday through Friday, but even on Saturdays. And I took shots, vertical shots, not only of the traffic, which was literally 3 to 5 miles per hour at 8 o'clock in the morning, and bumper to bumper, all the way down into Denver, and you can see the skyscrapers of Denver, and of course the brown cloud is always hanging over the city, and everybody breathing in the city is breathing toxic carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and of course the particulate from literally over 100 different chemicals they're breathing from all of the pollution in the air. And that's going to be the cover shot for this book. And for those of you who appreciate, this book will be out in another month. And it's America's Overpopulation Predicament, Blindsiding Future Generations. And it's, you know, we're blindsiding. I mean, you all know what blindsiding means. It means like in hockey when one player comes in and just smashes somebody from behind. It's blindsiding. Well, the youth of this country, with another 100 million people added to it, virtually all through immigration, both legal and illegal, they're going to be blindsided as to the consequences of water shortages, energy depletion, and resource exhaustion, and they're going to be facing horrific consequences. And so, yeah, this book is going to be a high-impact book, and I'm excited for the public to get to go see it. I'm also excited to share the book chapter by chapter with you and or Sharon in the coming weeks.
I'm going to kind of leave you to be the quarterback. You're going to be the Brady or Rodgers or Mahomes right now and lead us into what you want the public to hear this morning about the new book. But before I have you respond to that, I am livid about the laxity of concern of America and our jobs and our well-being in this country by the Biden administration. You know, they're talking about giving amnesty and literally a path to citizenship, and they're saying 11 million. The numbers actually, and many people that I've talked to say that it's going to be well over 20 million people. And then we've got on our southern border the absolute heinous activity of all these different caravans coming up with literally thousands and thousands of people sick with COVID and other diseases. What in the heck is the matter with our government?
Well, for those of you who appreciate this, I wrote a column, Curious Feelings About Losing America's Sovereignty. It's on newswithviews.com this morning, and it'll be on a lot of other news service websites. And actually, I've had 2 other radio shows just call me up. They want to talk about it. One in the Midwest, and then one down in New Orleans. And the folks are starting to get really shook up. But what's happening, and here are the Yale report that came out in October of 2018, said that the actual illegal alien count in this country is not the mainstream media account of 11 million, which they've been using forever, when in fact over 500,000 illegals have been crossing into the border that we know of every year, certainly for the last 10 years, and before that it was even more. And so what's really happening is that they are coming now because Biden has guaranteed them 100 days of non-deportations for those who've already gone through the system to be deported. And they're now coming across, or they're coming up to the border, and they're coming across the border right now because they know they're going to get an amnesty, and that's been promised as an executive order, an executive action by the presidency. And so, and it was on the news just last night. I watched it. They interviewed one of the people coming up in the caravan. He says, we have 100 days to get to America for a better life. And that's a quote. We have 100 days to get to America for a better life.
Yep.
And that's exactly correct. But what most people don't understand, and this is in the laws when it comes to immigration, once an immigrant gets a free pass into our country and a green card, and once that person gets to get a citizenship, they can bring in 10 of their relatives. 10 of their relatives. So when you take the real number, which was reported by the Yale report of 23 to 25 million illegal aliens are now residing in our country, you give all those 23 to 25 million illegal aliens a pass, a free pass, and you give them citizenship, they are now able to bring in 10 of their relatives, each one of them. Dear fellow Americans, take 10 times 25 million, and what do you get? We are in so much trouble with this presidency because this old man at 78, who has literally been bona fide senile and with onset dementia, he does not know what he's doing. He has no understanding of the mathematical consequences, and that we, the American people, are going to be paying a price that we cannot pay. And that's what's coming at us right now because of this Biden guy.
Yeah, but, there's others that you have to lump into that same fold. You'd have to lump in the Bernie Sanders and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, and for that matter, the entirety of the Democratic Socialist Party. I don't know if it's a matter of lack of intelligence or if it's a very sinister being, but I'll tell you one thing. I am sick and tired of being dictated to. I'll give you an example, and I don't know if you heard about this or not. Biden came out this weekend and said that he wants the American taxpayer to pay for these homeless in San Francisco that have taken over hotels and motels illegally, and we're going to pay for them to stay there. And in Frisco alone, it's going to cost $18 million a month.
Well, that's correct. And for those of you who appreciate, I rode through San Francisco on my bicycle in 2018. I saw 11,000 homeless with all of their needles, with all of their feces and defecation on the streets there, and all of their tents. I've got pictures of it, and that was nothing. You think it's 18 million there in San Francisco. Think about what it's going to cost for the 62,000 homeless in Los Angeles. So what Gavin Newsom, the gosh darn governor of California, is doing is simply sinking the working people of California with the taxes that are going to be paying for all these people who literally either by their own hand chose this kind of homeless life, chose this kind of illiteracy, chose this kind of drug addiction, and chose this kind of complete personal nightmares that they're all living on the streets of San Francisco and L.A., they are now going to be wards of the state, and the rest of us are going to be paying for it. And that's why California right now is in so much debt and so much trouble, and really, California, I'm predicting at some point will become America's first failed state.
Frosty, I want to take the remaining time this morning, and I want to talk about your new book, because I think absolutely everything I've read that you've sent me, this book is dynamic. This book is really historic, and I think this book is a must-read for everyone to try to comprehend and understand where we are and where we're headed. Give us kind of a synopsis of the book, if you would, and what's in it. Tell everybody, please.
Okay, I'm going to do the best I can with the time provided. First of all, I want everyone to understand that there are limits in the United States of America as to population. You cannot, exponential growth, that means the growth of a cancer cell. I put it on the same thing. A growth of a cancer cell is exponential growth. The cancer cell keeps growing until it takes over your entire stomach, or it takes over your pancreas, or it takes over your lungs, or it takes over your body, or leukemia. This cancer will always kill the host. And right now, this massive immigration problem coming into the United States, both legally and illegally, is brought to us by our own hand of our own elected officials. And it started with the 1965 Immigration Reform Act that started bringing in over 1 million people per year. And that's what's been happening, and that's what in the last 56 years since 65, that's what added 130 million people to the United States, because the American female has been averaging only 2 children or less per woman on average for all those years since birth control came into the picture, and we made that intelligent choice. Well, the rest of the world didn't do that. So the rest of the world, back in 1965, when we had 3.5 billion people on the planet, that's 3.5 billion, B as in boy, we have now added, because the rest of the world didn't take any kind of Earth Day understanding into appreciation and start practicing, birth control. The third world added 4.2 billion people. We're now at 7.8 billion, and we're about to add another 2.2 billion by 2050. We add 1 billion every 12 years. Okay, and that's all third world. So section 1 of the book talks about the deadliest birth rates for all humanity. Africa, at 1.3 billion right now, is headed for 2 billion people. And that's by 2050, just 29 years from now, and 4 billion before the end of the century. So they have this deadly birth rate. And, of course, they're now flooding all over Europe. They're flooding into any country they can. They're flooding into America right now. We're taking them in by the hundreds of thousands. Chapter number 2 is India. India is at 1.3 billion Indians. Well, they're still adding around 16 million of themselves every year, and the Indians are flooding into America through chain migration, and so that is going to continue because they won't take responsibility for their birth rates. China, on Chapter 3, has 1.4 billion people, and they're about to add 100 million people and hit 1.5 billion by 2050. And oh, by the way, India is going to hit 1.6 billion. They're going to add 350 million people. If you understand these unbelievable numbers, it just means that the world is going to have more than millions, hundreds of millions of refugees, and they're going to be migrating to first world countries where there's still some land and food left, and we have viable societies. So Chapter 4 shows the recipient nations of the deadliest birth rates. And, of course, it's It's Europe. It's America. It's Australia. It's New Zealand. It's any country that still has a room for anybody, and they can feed them. And the deadliest birth rates in the end are not solvable. So either we close our borders to all immigration, or we're simply going to take a flood of people. And that's still happening in Honduras. It's happening in Nicaragua. It's happening in Mexico. So the deadliest birth rates aren't just there. They're in Mexico, because Mexico has got 127 million right now, and it's going to hit 140 million by 2050. So Mexico, you think we're saving them? Well, they're coming like crazy. So this first section tells us and shows us that. In Section 2, what our civilization faces. At Chapter 5, I've got the accelerating consequences. Chapter 6, I've got the endless additions create endless shortages. We are all facing water shortages in 7 states right now that will expand because there will be too many people drawing down on water taps. Then Chapter 7, no species can get away with this behavior. You all know that if a species overruns the carrying capacity of the land, that species will collapse. You've had deer populations collapse. It goes right on down the line. And then I talk about oil. What happens when that 100-year window of oil that's making this system work collapses? In other words, all oil is exhausted. The finest minds in the world right now tell us that oil will all be gone by 2050. That's 29 years from now. And what are the consequences of that? No more oil to fill the tractors, no more diesel to fill the tractors, the combines to not only plant the food, but reap it and then transport it to your table. So that chapter will really shake you up. And then Chapter 9 is we need to think like a life-giving planet. we are really not taking care of the planet. We've got 84,000 chemicals going into the land, the water, the air every day, 24/7, which all end up in essentially into the oceans. We're poisoning the oceans. We're killing the reefs. I go over all of that. Then gridlock traffic worldwide. Most people don't realize this, but we lose almost 40,000 people to traffic accidents every year in this country. Well, over the whole world, we lose over 1.2 million. The research on this, I just blew my mind. 1.2 million people lose their lives in the traffic from traffic accidents worldwide every year. And so that consequence. And then I go to chapter 12, oceans of plastic and plastic fish. We've got over 5 trillion pieces of plastic in the oceans right now, and now the plastic, when it does break down a little bit, it gets into the tissue of the fish. So we're actually eating fish that have plastic tissue, which is petroleum, which then goes into our bodies, and it's causing our fetuses. We now have fetuses, women's fetuses have plastic in them, and this has been verified and recorded. And so then we're going into chapter 14, killing the bees in America and worldwide. Roundup, Monsanto, Dow Chemical, and Bayer, they're putting so many chemicals into our crops that we're killing the bees. And so I have a whole chapter on the consequences of that. And then chapter 15, the cows, the hogs, the chickens, the fish, and the corporate farms. I'm talking about massive, into the billions of pounds of fecal matter and urine that goes into the groundwater from these massive corporate farms. And all the consequences of that. I then, in chapter 16, talk about Fukushima and what happened to all that radioactive water that went into the ocean and how we're eating the fish that are also eating that radioactive water. And then on chapter 17, it's the expanding greenhouse gases. You put another 100 million people into the United States, you've got another 100 million cars, and then you got another 100 million chimneys where their homes have to warm and heat them. The numbers are just astounding on this thing. And then, chapter 19, the garbage waste conundrum. We fill, every year in this country, we have so much garbage, we could fill 4,700 Titanics. Get that? We do fill 4,700 Titanics. If you took the Titanic and just made it a garbage barge, we fill 4,700 Titanics every year with our garbage. And of course, then chapter 20 is we're fishing the oceans to death. We are raping the oceans to get food. And who's doing that? Well, the Chinese, the Japanese. It goes right on down the line because why? They got to feed the enormous populations that they have. And then I go to chapter 21 where we're unleashing this Frankenstein of GMOs, genetically modified crops. Soy and corn, and you go on down the line. We are just creating unbelievable consequences to the natural world by changing the DNA of the crops and of the fish, and you go on down the line. And then chapter 22 will just blow your mind because it's called BLIP, Humanity's 300-Year Self-Terminating Experiment with Industrialism. We are simply using up all the resources that the earth can give us, but it doesn't have any more. It has a finite ability to give us copper and lead and cadmium and nickel and everything else. And at that point, by 2050, according to this book by Chris Clugston, there's no way we can make this society operate. And yet we just added 100 million more people to it. So you can see the consequences there. Chapter 3, what's driving all of this? Immigration, and then the consequences sociologically, and then the consequences of quality of life to all of us. And as I've said, does anybody in Idaho or anybody in Washington State or Oregon or even in Montana, or do you want another 10 million more people in Idaho? Because that's what's coming. So I talk about immigration ramifications and then the sociological ramifications as far as racial conflict, as ethnic conflict, religious conflict, and then I talk about the environmental ramifications of impacting us with another 100 million. And I then talk about the tragedy of the commons. For those of you who know Garrett Hardin, the tragedy of the commons is that we're overwhelming the commons, and the commons is how we feed ourselves. And you'll get more of that. Section 4, the compelling reasons to change course. the serious realities facing our civilization. 29, immigration without population policy is illogical. And one of the greatest experts in the country, Edward Hartman, I took from his book, and his research is incredible. Chapter 30, should we humans feel guilty about overpopulating this planet? Well, we're the only cognitive species out there, and we're literally not stopping our numbers, and so we have to think about that. And then 31 is by Dave Foreman. He wrote a book called Man Swarm, The Killing of Wildlife. The extinction rates are 27 animals go extinct every day, and as high as 100 every day, and sometimes over 200 a day go extinct because we're simply encroaching on their habitat. And then on section 5, I talk about why journalists avoid the population connection, and then why our leaders are uninformed and unwilling to even address what's coming. And then we're talking about the catastrophic climate destabilization's markers. And I think you all know, I knew about this in 1997, 1998 when I was down in Antarctica. I got to see what the models were and what's coming, and the massive fires and all the consequences that those are creating. And then chapter 30...
I've only got 2 minutes left, Frost. 2 minutes left.
What we've got to do as a country to not go into this abyss. And so then I talk about chapter 36 is the quality of life, both natural and human. And then I've got chapter 37 as the headlines of our times. It shows exactly what's happening to us. And I put all these headlines from all these newspapers from the last 10 years. And then finally, I talk about your individual actions, your actions on the national level, and then your actions on the international level. This book, ladies and gentlemen, is going to rock you. But we need to take action now before we will become the victims of our non-action. Have I made it somewhat clear?
Yeah, and I'm out of time.
Very little time, but hopefully it's clear enough for everybody to.
Absolutely, and we're going to have you back later on this week on Wednesday, and we'll talk a little bit more about this real quick. And give me a short answer, Frost, because I'm over on my time. Yeah. Whether it's the food, whether it's the homes, the jobs, whatever it is for all these illegals, it looks like the American taxpayer's on the hook, and we can't afford that kind of huge debt.
Well, we can't. And,
quickly,
I'll make this. This is a short paragraph. Without sovereign borders, America is no longer a country. It's a destination for the world's refugees. Note this harsh reality. 100, 200, 300 million refugees would immigrate to America tomorrow if they were given a chance and a visa and a plane ride. If we continue to be a destination for the world's refugees, within 20 to 30 years, we Americans will become refugees in our own country. That is a mathematical fact. That's a mathematical fact that awaits us. I hope that paragraph really shakes you up this morning, because we as American people have got to stop this massive immigration into our country, and we've got to stop. You got to get on your two senators, the House member. You got to get into the governor. You got to talk about this.
I got to run.
Stand up, say something, and that's the only way we're going to save ourselves.
I got to run. I'm sorry, Frost. Talk to you on Wednesday. Frosty Woldridge. God bless you. Golden, Colorado. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And right now, let's run to the weather. And I mean run to the weather. Brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. The professionals serving you with accounting services for the entirety of the Mini-Cassia area and beyond for well over 50 years. The best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, all of this and so much more from Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's Gina with the weather forecast.
Clouds sticking around for the week and maybe some snow showers. Here's your weather forecast. Mostly cloudy skies for today, expecting a high of 34. A slight breeze out of the east-northeast at about 8 miles an hour. Tonight's clouds going to stick around with a low of 21. Pretty much the same for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 34. By Tuesday night, partly cloudy skies. We do have a slight breeze picking up out of the south, and we are expecting a low of 29 by Wednesday. 50% chance of snow showers by the afternoon with a high of 43. That's a look at your weather weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, she does a great job. Thank you, Gina. And the weather brought to you by my friends, the professionals, and that's Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I urge you to get a hold of them today for you, your family, and your business. Maybe you're starting a business or maybe changing over to a corporation, whatever. They can help you. Please get a hold of them today at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Want to remind you, too, about some dear friends, and that's, of course, our knowledgeable people about anything electronics, and that's Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Oh, my goodness. They've got the food storage supplies. Did you know that? They've added that to their menu of everything that they've got in the store. And also, they've got the Sony touchscreen stereo, regularly $299.99, now marked down to $269. Hey, you better check it out today. All things electronics right there at Patterson's Electronics. They're open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6, and they've got all your home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, complete sound systems, all your TVs right there at Patterson's Electronics in Burley. Right now, we're going to take a little break for a couple of minutes and send it back over to Sean for the news, and we'll be back at 10:06. Don't you go away. Oh, here we go, hour number 3, and Zeb at the Ranch on this Monday, and brought to you by your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you with the best of tires and service, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind you, too, about all the good things that are going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. They're having their annual January flooring event. Oh, I'm telling you, you can carpet your entire home and save an awful lot of money. They've got 3 different categories of carpet, $69, $89, and the premium carpet for just $99. And the same with the luxury vinyl for your home. You betcha, 3 different prices. Standard at $109, better at $139, and of course the premium luxury vinyl at $169. You better check it out today. Floor coverings for your home at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. They're located at 459 Overland in Burley. Jeff and the crew waiting to serve you right now for their January flooring event. Let's go to the phone right now and talk to a gentleman that I absolutely look forward to having him on my program anytime and every time that he's available. And I say to the man from Florida, Dan Perkins, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine, and thank you for having me on your show.
You know, it goes without saying, I just received a few minutes ago the article that you had written called The New Freedom of Speech in America, Believe Me or Shut Up. And I had a chance to scan it really quick during the news, and you have hit the nail right on the head. I think that programs like mine and many, many more are in jeopardy right now because we're voicing our conservative opinions. What are your thoughts? I'll let you take it away.
I absolutely agree with you. We had during the campaign many people on the left trying to compare what Donald Trump was doing as Nazism, brown shirts, stormtroopers. If we look at what has happened since Joe Biden has become president of the United States, we have people on the left saying we need to establish reprogramming camps to change people's minds. We have the left saying what it says in the article. If you don't agree with what I say, you don't have anything to say. You have no rights. So the left is actually turning out to be the Nazis in this situation. And they want to take away our freedom of speech. Look what Twitter, Google, and Facebook did in a matter of 24 hours with Parler. They basically shut the company down. Now, if you look at the federal statutes under the Sherman Antitrust Act and the narrative as to why it was established, what happened overnight when those 3 companies colluded to destroy the competition was a clear violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. But nobody in the Biden Justice Department wants to do anything about it. Why? Because they agree. Let me give you another example. When he took office, the day he took office, he issued a series of executive orders. In fact, I'm writing a commentary on that right now. But he wrote a series of executive orders. One of those was to draw the permit for the Keystone Pipeline. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about how many people lost their jobs. The New York Post said it was 11,000. The administration said, well, all of the jobs that were there to build the pipeline are not permanent jobs. The only permanent jobs in jeopardy would be those people who are responsible for maintaining the pipeline, which is about 150 people. But according to CNN Business, there are 3,900 jobs working on the pipelines. More importantly, there are 42,000, say it again, 42,000 support jobs that support the workers and the construction of the pipeline. They'll be gone. Average income about $43,000 a year. But what's important is they didn't stop when they decided to sign this executive order. They didn't ask the governor. They didn't ask the union officials. They didn't even offer to talk to the Canadian government. They didn't talk to anybody other than themselves when they issued this executive order. Within a day or two after they issued the order, Rasmussen did a poll of 2,000 likely voters, and by a two-thirds majority, they disagreed with what the president did on the Keystone Pipeline. And the principal reason they disagreed was it was good for the country to make us energy independent. If we're not going to allow these pipelines to be built, and we're going to put construction restrictions on other pipelines and drilling to be done, we are going to lose our energy independence, and we're going to become, again, dependent upon the politically unstable Middle East for our source of energy, which means that prices will rise, and more than just 45,000 people will be impacted. Hundreds of millions of people will be impacted because the cost of energy will go up. These are all examples of where the Biden administration doesn't want to hear from anybody who's opposed to what they want to do. They have no voice. Then you don't have a democracy if you don't have a voice.
Dan, right now, you're talking about a subject that makes me so mad, and that's the Keystone Pipeline. And Sean, we've got a little feedback on the line, if you could. 830,000 barrels of crude per day were coming into this country and should be coming into this country. And for elderly and people on fixed incomes, et cetera, that are going to be suffering now with much, much higher prices at the pump, and everything else will go in accordance. All the transportable goods, food, clothing, everything is going to go sky high in pricing. I am livid at the stupidity of this Biden administration.
Well, I'll give you some more stuff to be livid about. Staying in the same general church but moving to a different pew in the Biden agenda is global warming. The president wants to put us back in the Paris Accord, and that's supposed to have an impact on CO2 emissions. In 2015, we had the Paris Accord, and at the Paris Accord, we had 197 nations all signed on, including the United States under Barack Obama. The goal was to set up a fund of money called Green Cash to help fund projects all over the world to improve the quality of air. Of the 197 countries that signed the accord, agreeing to put money into this goal of $100 billion by 2020, 16 nations have participated, and we have about $6 billion, of which $1 billion of that was put in that fund before Donald Trump could stop it. So now we have a situation where a Princeton ecology professor was asked recently to rate the success of the climate accord with Paris. And he said, if I were grading it, I would give it a D or an F, because they haven't done anything near what they said they were going to do. So putting us back into the accord does one thing for the Paris Accord. More money, maybe as much as $3 billion, coming from the United States. If you go to that Paris Accord website and you look at projects that are needed to be funded for improving the quality of air, none are in North America. Not only the United States, but Canada, North America. We have the right to ask a question. We don't get an answer. But under the Paris Accord, the second largest economy in the world was designated as an emerging economy, therefore exempt until 2035 from any requirements. And it is the number one polluting nation in the world. And they don't have to do anything for another 15 years, if then. So the decisions that Biden is making about energy and global warming, all these things are being made in a vacuum. He's not talking at all with any of the stakeholders. And lo and behold, he also wants to stop the border construction of the wall. And he wants to open the border. Now, this morning we heard that the president of Mexico has COVID-19, supposedly a mild case. Can you imagine with a caravan coming up from Honduras with thousands of people, no social distancing, no testing, coming up to the American border, and we're going to allow some of those contaminated people, which we don't know, into our country and then spread the virus again? When at the same time, the same administration is saying that they want to stop travel between South Africa and the United States because of the outbreak of the new strain of the virus. So it's not consistent. It's absurd. It's just plain stupid and sophomoric.
How do we as citizenry in this country, and Dan, I'm going to ask you a big favor. If you're on a conference call, phone, could you switch it to just speaking into the receiver? We're getting a little echo if you could. But how can we, the people, fight back? I am absolutely livid to the point to think about thousands upon thousands and thousands of people coming in here, and not just with COVID or any other disease, and coming in and saying to America, we're here and you can't stop us. Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, you got to foot the bill. I'm fed up with this garbage.
I am too. I think it's absolutely absurd that what we're doing. I'm working on this, trying to get this fixed. Was there somebody that had a question, Seth?
Yeah, we have a call with a question, and caller quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, this is the thing, Biden probably wore Depends to the inauguration, and he probably wears one every day, and I'm not joking. And so he isn't making any decisions because he doesn't remember what happened yesterday or maybe 5 minutes ago. So whoever's running him, they're the ones who are doing all this insanity because that's what they want. Ocasio-Cortez and their thinking, whatever it is. But when we swung the pendulum to the left with Obama and they forced Obamacare down our throat, and now Trump came, we re-elected him in a landslide, and everybody knows it. And now they're beating the hell out. They're kicking our teeth out right now. And I'm saying to myself, okay, what do we do right now? I have ideas. Somehow we've got to hold our congressmen and senators accountable more than just calling them. They need to be held accountable every week somewhere on a radio program or something to answer to the people, the Republican patriots. But this is the thing. Biden isn't making any decisions. He doesn't even, so... will the pendulum swing back to the right so radically in 2 years that if they try to pack the court and make D.C. and Puerto Rico states, I worry that there will be blood in the streets. Thank you.
Respond to the caller, please, Dan, if you would.
Well, that was a lot of stuff to unpack there. I agree that there is a problem, and the American people have been duped, as they typically are, by the Democrats when it comes time to presidential elections, and as a result, will the Republicans, which have historically been, in my lifetime, the party of capitulation, whenever the Democrats attack, the Republicans seem to acquiesce and think that because they've acquiesced, the Democrats will act differently. In reality, they don't act any differently. So I think that we have to keep talking about it. I think the one thing that really scares me, and you pointed it out too, when Parler was knocked down in a matter of one day by collusion between the three media companies, your program, the things I write in commentaries and other things that other shows that I'm on are under jeopardy.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And I think that that's going to create a place, if we start losing our voices on the air, it's going to be very difficult.
Dan, I will not unify with these people. And once again, Sean, we got heavy feedback there. I will not unify with these people. I will not create a sense of unity with them. I have nothing to do with them. For 5.5 years or more, they've been after me, demeaning me, condemning me, and even damning me, like I said earlier. I'm not going to unify with a group that only wants conformity, and they want me to be a good little dog, be on a leash, and go wherever they tell me, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, I agree. I have a lot of friends like yourself in the media, and I can't tell you the number of people that are telling me that they're walking away from Twitter and Facebook and looking for alternatives. And it looks like the Parler may have a hosting platform and maybe back as early as next week. The problem for the Democrats, Seb, is they believed that it was going to be the status quo. We won, you lost. Do what we tell you to do. And when you think about it, I didn't watch his inaugural speech. I wasn't interested in it. But what I was interested in, as a historian, we had 25,000 troops lining the streets of Washington, D.C. to get this president inaugurated. 25,000. Abraham Lincoln, in either of his two inaugurals, never had that many soldiers in the city of Washington, D.C. And so it shows me that what we're looking at is a dictator. We're looking at a dictator form of government that many, many people in various positions in the cabinet and other leadership positions are dictators. This morning, the head of the CDC, Zeb, I don't know whether you saw this, she said, quote, "We don't know how many vials of vaccine we have." And I read that, and I said, wait a minute. There was a purchase order given to Moderna and to Pfizer for X numbers of bottles. Purchase order was given. Money was set aside. The virus bottles of vaccine were shipped. They were paid. They went to a distribution point. If you can't find them, you've got the problem. But you can't blame Donald Trump. And they said, well, there's no plan. Wait a minute. They have vaccinated 12 million people. Granted, they wanted to do 20 million by the end of the year, but I suspect that there were a lot of people who were trying to stop that from happening. But now they're reneging on their, quote, 100 million vaccines, 100 million Americans vaccinated by the end of 100 days. Hitting the number, and now they're trying to back away. Well, it's 100 million shots. Well, both vaccines require 2 shots, so now we're only talking 50 million people.
Right.
That still leaves 175 million people exposed. So I think this administration was totally caught off guard at the reaction of people like you and me and the average Americans. And when they started announcing these executive orders, the industries that were affected decided to push back. And again, they don't know how to do that, so they're scrambling to try and figure out. Now there's a story this morning that Joe Biden wants to send troops back to Afghanistan.
Yep.
He wants to re-engage in the war. And
Donald Trump left office with no new wars in 4 years and dramatically reducing American soldiers exposed in the Middle East. It's a horror story that the American people don't understand.
Dan, right there, I need to interject a question. And again, Sean, the feedback, please. I'm 73 years old. And I want to leave this earth with the hope and the want that my grandsons are going to live in a free society of this great country, the greatest of any country, the United States of America. And right now, this morning, I've got so much animosity and so much pent-up hatred, and I'm going to use that word, for people that are trying to have this country's demise. And I'm going to put Biden and Harris's name right next to it. But people don't know what to do. Tell us what we can do.
That's a great question. It's the most important question of the program. Probably the most important question of the year. What can we do? First thing we can do is pray. Number two, we can start talking to our friends and neighbors about what's wrong and have them talking to our local elected leaders, our state elected leaders, and our national. And when it comes time to vote in 2022, that will be the time when we will have the ability to send a message to the Democrats, because they only have a 4-seat majority in the House and no majority except for the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. We could see something where the American people basically flip the Congress, both House and Senate, to Republican away from Democrats. And that will have a negative impact on his agenda. I also think that if we write to our congressmen and senators enough and tell them exactly how angry we are and disagree with the policies, it will make it more difficult because they have such a narrow majority in the House and the Senate. They have no majority in the Senate except for the tiebreaker for him to get his legislation. Remember that the tax bill that Donald Trump passed was not an executive order. It was legislation. It was the law of the land. Biden cannot wipe away the Trump tax cuts with an executive order. The only thing that can be done with is through legislation started in the House Ways and Means Committee and going through the process of the House and the Senate. I don't think that'll fly. So, yeah, we have to talk. We have to listen to shows like yours. We have to write to our senators and congressmen, our local representatives. We have to be heard. We can't let ourselves be stymied by the censoring that the left wants to bring upon us in the United States.
You know, Dan, I'm going to ask you a favor. I'm going to be gone for a little bit, and I want to come back, and I want to call you and do a re-up on this program and especially this topic. God bless you for the excellent article, and please come back soon, please.
Anytime you want me, just give me a holler.
This man is really a great political analyst and author, Dan Perkins. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you much.
Thank you.
I tell you what, the subject of free speech and the limitations that are being imposed upon us, and this administration taking things away from us that are going to make us a better society, I am absolutely, I used the word before, I'll use it again, livid against this Biden administration, if you want to call it that. I find it hard to give good words as administration. Right now, I want to remind, I did have a good experience the other night, and I'll tell you what, I want to share it with you. I urge you to stop over to Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon at 18 East Main Street in Declo. Oh, we went in there, and the people are so courteous, so friendly. And, I mean, your friends are going to be there. You might as well have a great big dinner party with them, because they're all there. It's a great place to go eat, whether it's prime rib, whether it's a steak, whether it's lobster, whether it's ribs. I absolutely did not leave hungry, let me tell you that. I had to get outside and kind of go to an easier loop in the belt, I'll tell you that, because it was fantastic. That's all I can say. It was fantastic. Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon, 18 East Main Street in Declo. Take your friends, take your neighbors, take your family. You're going to love the food. You're going to love the people at Wick's Steak Place. Right now, we're going to take a little break. I got to calm down, and we're going to take a little break and come back with Dog Days in just a few minutes. Sean, it's all yours.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, good morning, good morning. I'm trying to be a happier, smiling person this morning, but it's a little bit tough, isn't it, listening to all the different news that's going on? But I am going to make things a little lighter because our canine friends are absolutely a necessity to all of us. And I know a lady that has been serving the canine world and making sure that they find good homes for those that have been abandoned or are up for adoption. And that's, of course, Deb Hines with Minidoka Animal Control. Deb, good morning and good to have you back on.
To burst your bubble, but she's not picking up again. I'll keep trying.
You got to be kidding me. Oh, dear heaven. Okay, Sean, keep trying, old buddy, if you would, please. I'd appreciate it. And I certainly hope so. Up until this point, I was feeling happier, but now I will take your phone calls at 4362244.
She's on the line.
There she is. Deb, I was afraid 2 times in a row we weren't going to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, and I apologize for last Monday. I keep forgetting that people forget that we're government and we don't open unless we have to.
Okay, well, it's good to have you back on the air. And like I said, you and what you do over there at Minidoka Animal Control, absolutely helping our canine friends. What's going on over there? Have you got a lot of dogs? I certainly hope not, but tell us about some of them.
Well, we've got new ones in. I've got a couple of pups that are husky crosses. We named them Lady and the Tramp.
Okay. All right.
Younger. They're beautiful, beautiful dogs. But, unfortunately, they have been severely abused.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We're working with them. They're getting better by all the time. We're getting to the point where we can touch them. But anybody looking for a pup that would like something that they can train and love back to people would be great.
Now, you said, and again, Sean, there's a little feedback. You said, Deb, they're a husky cross. Now, what do you think the other cross is?
We're not real sure that it's not German Shepherd.
I see. Okay.
One's tan, and one's black and tan.
Okay. And how big of dogs do you think they may be?
I don't think they're going to be giant dogs like a purebred husky or shepherd. I think they're going to be a medium-sized dog.
Okay.
But they are, once they like you, they like you. It's just, getting them to calm down enough so that you can do something.
Well, I don't want to go into a lot of negativity, but when you said they were abused, I mean, what are we talking about? Beat? What happened to these dogs?
Well, one, the little guy, when he first came in, no, he doesn't. Anyway, when he first came in, and you'd go to touch him, he would whittle all over. Just absolutely freaked out. The little girl didn't do that. We actually got our hands on her faster than him. But now that we've had some time with him and spent time playing with him as much as we can, now you can touch him and he doesn't whittle all over unless you're new. But you cannot move fast around these poor babies.
Yeah.
You do, and they duck like they've had the crap kicked out of them.
Oh, that's a shame.
Wrong word.
No, they
didn't,
Yeah. It's just so sad to think that they were beaten. Now, were they of a litter of more pups that you know of, or were there just these 2?
I have no idea, Zeb. They were in the drop box in this miserable cold at night.
Oh, my. Oh, my. That makes me sick.
The first thing I do is get them in, let's warm them up. Not too far in the near future, I'm going to bring them into the lab, and we are going to be able to play with them and just get them socialized in here with us, walking, doing our job, walking around, doing stuff, and make them understand that just because we're human doesn't mean I'm going to beat them to death.
Absolutely. Right now, looking at these two pups, they sound like they're not really ready to go to a home, or am I wrong?
No, they're not. But anybody that might be looking for one, if they would like to come look at them and say, yeah, after we're socialized, this would work, that's all I'm saying. As far as stuff that can go home right away, we have got a black border female. Her name's Shadow, and you cannot ask for a nicer dog.
Oh,
and
my.
I am not kidding you.
Okay, you said...
I say this a lot, but this is a true story. This one would go home with me.
Yeah. Now, you said she's...
I have got other things to live with.
You said that she's a black border collie female, is that right?
Yeah, well, she's long-haired border. Black and white.
Okay.
Well-mannered. I think she's house-trained.
Uh-huh.
Is she house-trained, Mike? Is she house-trained? Yeah. It's just, like anything here, they do the best they can, but he said that her kennel's clean most of the time, which tells me she's house-trained.
Yeah. What about, what kind of a situation...
It takes just a few minutes to get her back.
Yeah, what kind of a situation would she fit in the best as far as what you know about her?
I think anywhere, because she gets along really well with the other dogs. No matter what you throw at her, she's happy, happy, happy. She absolutely loves people. She does fetch a little bit, as much as we can play with them. I do not know if she works cattle. That may be why we got her. I don't know.
Okay.
Again, another Dropbox baby. But she's a doll.
Which leads me to ask, how old is the dog?
I think she's about 2.
Okay.
Is what her teeth are telling me.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. Along with the 2 husky cross pups, and then, of course, this black and white border female, Shadow, I know I want to take some time right here and have you talk about your real helpers, and that's Wagon Tails Rescue. We need to give them a great big shout-out today, if you would, please.
Yes, I would love to. They have been phenomenal. In fact, they've got that spay and neuter program for cats or dogs. It costs the owners $25, and they just have to fill out some paperwork or call, and we'll give them an address to send paperwork to. They get a call. The dogs are taken care of. The only thing that they don't pay for is the rabies shot, but that's usually only $10. They help us with all of our postings, and when we need stuff at the shelter, they call and say, what do we need? We tell them, and they post that and work at getting that for us. They're getting ready to do some kind of not a garage sale, but a little donation thing where they've got all sorts of different stuff that people can buy.
I see.
To donate back to Wagon Tail so that they can continue to work with us for spay and neuters.
Well, let me ask you this, Deb, and I'm almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you, I had a call a couple of weeks ago after the program, and some people said, hey, if we want to help contribute to what's going on at Minidoka Animal Control or Wagon Tails Rescue, they said, where can we help send a check to help finance these 2 great groups?
Okay, anything that you need to send to the shelters could go to P.O. Box 136 in Rupert. And Wagon Tail's address is 1015 Ice Street in Rupert.
Okay. And are you needing anything in particular right now this time of the year, looking at the latter part of January going into February? What are the needs for these dogs?
Anything we can get.
Okay.
We need, bedding always, food, cleaning supplies, people that want to come walk dogs or play with them, the more people I can involve in that kind of thing, the better it is for the dogs, because it helps them socialize better if they're not too social.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a call, Deb, real quick, and we'll take the call, and then we'll wrap it up. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Thank you.
Actually, it's me, Zeb.
Oh, okay.
Can she repeat the P.O. box number or the address again, because she muffled out?
Yeah, Deb, repeat the box number, the address again one more time, because you moved and it didn't come over the phone.
Okay, 426 in Rupert.
Post Office Box 426 in Rupert. Okay, thank you. Deb, the dogs we featured today, 2 Husky Cross pups known as Lady and the Tramp, and they're going to be peopleized and kind of gentled down a little bit, and they're going to make excellent dogs. And then a black and white border collie female named Shadow, 2 years of age. Excellent, excellent dog. Those are the dogs you featured this morning. Give us a telephone number real quick as to how people can get a hold of you.
208-438-2200, and we will be happy to do what we can to help them. If they need to bring a dog to visit and get to know the other dog, do it.
All right.
Bring your kids. I want everything to work.
Oh, I appreciate that. Deb Hines, thank you very much with Minidoka Animal Control, and we will be talking to you next week. And God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you. She does a job that is really tough. I mean, not only working with these dogs and making sure that she's helping to find homes, but also the care of these dogs. And so anytime you've got a little extra money that maybe you say, these canine friends, we need to take care of them, whether it's bedding or food, whatever, get a hold of them today. And that's Minidoka Animal Control with Deb Hines. Right now it's time for the weather. And the weather this hour is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The telephone number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Oh, I'm talking delicious meats. Whether it's the hams or whether it's the prime ribs or the ribeyes or all the different flavors of bacon, the sausages, the bratwurst, the list goes on and on. You're going to love all the meat from Scarrows Meats over in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Clouds sticking around for the week and maybe some snow showers. Here's your weather forecast. Mostly cloudy skies for today, expecting a high of 34. A slight breeze out of the east-northeast at about 8 miles an hour. Tonight's clouds going to stick around with a low of 21. Pretty much the same for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 34. By Tuesday night, partly cloudy skies. We do have a slight breeze picking up out of the south, and we are expecting a low of 29 by Wednesday. 50% chance of snow showers by the afternoon with a high of 43. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. And Sean, can you turn that up just a little bit in my headsets? I'd appreciate that. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don and the crew, they're excellent, excellent meats. They've got it all. Go to their website. Check it out. You'll know what I mean. Number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrows Meats. Real quick, before we go to our next guest, I want to remind you that tomorrow on the program, we've got Dan Kish, and boy, we got a lot to talk with him about energy with the American Energy Alliance. We've got our Handy Legislative Update. That's right, Handy Truck Lines sponsoring our legislative update and Dr. History. All of this and a lot more tomorrow on the program for Tuesday, so don't miss that. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and we have with us and I'm going to give him a title because I think I'm right, one of the principals over at Minidoka School District, Mr. Dustin Heath. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing, Ted?
Give us your official title and everything else so that we can know and say that we talked to you and brag about you.
Sure thing. So I'm Dustin Heath. I'm the assistant principal, split actually between Rupert Elementary and East Minico Middle School.
Okay. How long have you been in this area, Dustin?
Well, I spent 4 years at Kaja School District at Mountain View Mountain View Elementary, and then 2 years at West Minico Middle School as the head principal there, and now I'm the assistant principal over here, and it's been a real nice opportunity to step back and assist other people. So,
one of the things that you put on your note is that you'd like to tell everybody about what's happening in the secondary libraries. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so I've had the good fortune to be directly involved with all 3 of our secondary school libraries in Minidoka School District, and I want to share some of the great things that I've seen. It's funny because when we think of libraries, there are certain stereotypes that go with the library oftentimes. You think of the grumpy librarian who's constantly shushing everyone, or the library being a real kind of boring, quiet place, or even just an exclusive place just for the book smart people to go and study. What I've noticed is that our secondary school libraries have really started to become a hub that really affects the school culture. Our librarians are no longer just checking out books. They're responsible for getting information to students using multiple forms of media, including audiobooks and podcasts, including music, video, ebooks. It's considered more of a media center than a library nowadays because there are so many forms of media being offered. A lot of the school's technology is even being managed by our librarians, where they're checking in and out laptops and iPads and things like that. And oftentimes they're usually the first people to help troubleshoot when a student has technology problems. I've been able to witness a very deliberate shift in our secondary school media centers to a more inclusive environment. It's no longer an exclusive place just for the quote-unquote smart kids, but it's a place for anybody who wants to be there. You have kids who come in for various reasons. They'll come in to read, but they'll also come in to socialize or to use their computers, or they'll come in to play card games or finish their homework, or even just decompress from the stresses of the day. At the high school, there are students who are begging their teachers to let them go to the media center on Friday for their reward time. Or I've noticed at East and West Minico, the most coveted student aid position by far is to be the media center aide, because they love the environment and the things that they get to accomplish. And while the media center is still primarily about books, we're seeing a change where in the past students avoided going to the library, and now it's becoming a place where the students want to be. And I credit our amazing librarians for making that their focus. They've been deliberate about making sure the media center is a welcoming place for all the students.
Let me ask you this.
So that's what I wanted to share with you.
Well, I'm glad you are, but I want to ask you a question. I can remember vividly the librarian that I had in high school, and she spent most of her time coming up and down the aisles of the tables with a ruler, and unfortunately it was my hand that she hit the most. So things have changed, and it sounds like the librarians right now today, they have to have a multiplicity of knowledge. Explain that just a little bit.
Absolutely. We haven't armed them with rulers lately, but what I've noticed is these librarians, they do have to have a vast amount of knowledge of what's available to the students, but they also have to have very high, they have to have very good skills in classroom management, because they're oftentimes they'll be found having to monitor a good 40, 50 kids at a time in anywhere between 3 and 8 activities that these kids are doing, and so they have to be really good at thinking on their feet and working well with students and staff.
Do the librarians, Dustin, do they have to take and or be participating in special education classes on how to get the different media out to the kids or explain it to the kids?
So our high school librarian is a certified librarian. Our 2 at the middle schools are both considered paraprofessionals, which, in my opinion, the they shouldn't be paid as paraprofessionals because of much work that they do. But the certified librarian at the high school, she does have to have special certifications. The other two librarians, they just get all sorts of training to get them to where they need to be able to manage all that media. And they do a great job of getting that done.
Are kids today in general, are they reading as much as they used to in days gone by? Or has the laptops and the different source of media, has it taken over just sitting down and reading a good book?
I think that's a great question to ask. And my answer would be, I think that the students are reading every bit as much as they have in the past. However, getting them into a novel nowadays, as maybe 20 years ago, is definitely much more difficult. I think they're reading a lot, but typically it's very social language. It's things, getting them on, they're on Facebook or they're reading sports articles or things like that. To get into a nice, deep novel is definitely a challenge for our librarians.
You talk about the secondary libraries, and the years past when I was in school, of course, we still circled the wagons at night, but, it was kind of a dark, kind of a gloomy place. It sounds like your libraries are really kind of an enlightening, happy experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you go in to our secondary libraries during class time, it's still expected typically to be a quieter environment because we have students who are going in to, get away to take a test or to study. But it's during some of those unstructured times, between periods or during lunchtime where you go in and really feels like a party in there. It's so much fun that even I, as the principal, want to go in and just hang out for a little while because they have music playing and they have games going. And the bottom line is these librarians have all made it clear that they want kids to come into the library so they can actually interact with them and have those kids interacting with the materials they have there, including the books.
What about mom and dad? I would imagine that they probably have a lot of questions about what their kids are reading and doing and what kind of education they're getting within the libraries. Do you ever have any seminars to kind of explain things to mom and dad?
At this time, I don't think we've done anything like that, but I think it's actually a really good idea just to open up the library to parents. Parents oftentimes get into the libraries in the elementary schools at parent-teacher conferences and stuff where they'll have book fairs and things. But I don't think we really have opportunities to bring those parents into our secondary libraries as much as we would like to.
It's really interesting about libraries and the wealth of information that's in there. Are there any final thoughts you want to bring up this morning, Dustin? Go ahead.
No, what I really like to just say is that there is kind of a new guard coming through, and I think I can't speak for other school districts or anything specifically, but I think that if I went to many other of the secondary libraries and other school districts, we'd be seeing that same shift happening. The 3 librarians at our middle schools and high school are all within their first couple of years of being librarians, and they really are working hard to make sure the kids are getting in. And I think that we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of that because we just don't want this to be an empty room full of books where nobody's coming.
Absolutely. Assistant Principal over in the Minidoka County School District, Dustin Heath. God bless you, man, and thank you so much for your time on the program this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
All right, sir. Have a great day, sir. Thank you. Want to quickly tell you about our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with all the tires for all the vehicles. That's right. That's not brag. That's a fact. They've got all the sizes, all the tread designs for any and all vehicles. You stop in today and let them serve you. And along with the best in brake service, they've got highly trained brake technicians that when you put your foot foot on the pedal, you're going to stop. They know what they're doing. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, and in the cold weather, I'll tell you what, you better make sure you've got a good battery. If yours doesn't test out, you better check out a new one from any of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. They are the best at helping you, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Our Bible verse for today from Titus chapter 2, verse 1. But as for you, speak up for the right living that goes along with true Christianity. There you go. The way things were, the way things ought to be. And, of course, we're going to be back tomorrow at 8:06 with the words that mean the most. In God we trust. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you much.